Welcome back to a top-level game of professional StarCraft 2. What I've got for you today is a best-of-3 series of Zerg versus Terran, where in game number 1 we find ourselves on the map Solaris. Spawning right here in the top right-hand corner, playing with the blue Zerg drones, we have none other than Dark. His opponent in the opposite corner with the red Terran SCVs, he goes by the name of Maru. If you're a fan of South Korean Terran versus Zerg, it really doesn't get much better than these two playing against each other. Now, I've seen quite a few Dark games as of late, as per usual, because I love watching Dark games, but Dark has been a very cheesy man. For some reason, he's been playing very aggressive strategies. Even though he's very good at playing the late game, it seems like that is the style that he is, well, trying to avoid, right? He's not really too keen on playing those late game spellcasters of Zerg right now. I wish I could ask him as to why that is. Maybe he's just, you know, not down to play like a long macro game until he makes it to like the finals of a tournament or something like that, you know. Dark, he likes to play in practically every online event that has more than like $300 on the line. So I guess he just wants to get the games over with nice and early, if that means he gets a little bit more time to chill in between the series. Either way, Maru on the flip side, I mean, he doesn't really play in a whole lot of events. So this is from the Kung Fu Cup. I think there's like, I don't really know exactly what the prize pool is in 2024, but I think it's like, okay, fine, I'll look it up. Kung Fu Cup 2024 Liquipedia. I think it's like $1,500, I want to say. Don't spoil yourself, Loco. Yeah, it's $1,388 US. So this is organized by SCBoy, the Chinese StarCraft 2 group. They've been putting on a lot of awesome events, and apparently that is enough at the very least to get Maru to sign up for your tournament too. As you probably know, Maru doesn't really play in a whole lot of events, so whenever you see me casting any Maru games, it's probably either a qualifier for a big tournament or it's from a tournament where the prize pool is significant enough for Maru to, at the very least, give it the time of day. Now, Dark has been pretty cheesy. I have seen quite a few Maru games where he is building all of his structures on the other side of the map. That seems to be something he likes to do. Or he seems to be a fan of that Cure-esque approach, where you just simply sit back and you don't really attack all too much and you turtle up and you force the late game. So I've got a feeling this is going to be an interesting clash between these two. Dark, who likes to be playing pretty cheesy at the moment, and Maru, who seems to enjoy playing the macro game quite a bit. So far though, nothing out of the ordinary here. Nice little bit of Reaper micro, trying to keep those Zerglings at bay. Brenda is out now. Karen is in the main base too. We're gonna go for a double inject. Okay. Double inject is actually not very common. Generally speaking, you got one inject in the main base, and then the queen that spawns in a natural, she uses her first energy to put down a creep tumor, so you can actually defend your third base if the opponent decides to get aggressive. Third queen is coming up on the back of this, but we'll have to keep an eye out on exactly what Dark decides to do, because this usually is something that is done either if you're really scared of your opponent's Reaper, right? Fair enough. Maru's Reaper is very scary, or if you want to make a ton of units, right? Because you need those larvae to be able, well, we've already got 7 drones on the production tab here, but sometimes we will use those larvae to do a big link flood, or maybe even a roach push instead. There's the starport coming up, so it's a triple CC opener right here for Maru. Hellions into what seems to be Banshees. I think it's an excellent choice. Very powerful build. Viking first. There is a Roach Warren on the production tab right here for Dark at about 3.5 minutes. This will allow him to pump out about 7 to, I guess it depends, Zerglings going across the map, 7 to like 10 Roaches or so. The thing is, for Terran, a Banshee start is really good against this particular style. There's even a chance that Dark goes for like a Zergling flood on the back of it, which is not very common. We don't really see that all too often. Usually if it's this timing on the Roach Warren, well, we do have some Zerglings here coming up, a lot of Overlords too. Normally when it's this timing on the Roach Warren, at least over the last half year or so, Zerg players just go for the round of Roaches and then they don't follow up with Zerglings. That's a lot of Overlords. He makes another one. 6 OVs here in total. I guess that's because the Viking was showing itself. Yeah. So Roaches are coming. We do not have a Banshee. So Maru playing a very greedy game. He's going into a Viking and then into a Liberator instead. Now my question is he gonna make Zerglings on the back of this? Because that's not a build I've seen all too much. It's one of my personal favorite builds. Can Dark withstand the temptation? He doesn't want to show any of his units, right? So, yep, there we go. He does decide to do a link flood on the back of this. So this is a very committed push here for Dark. Okay, nice zoning right here. Beautiful zoning here by Maru. So if you're a Terran player who goes Viking into Banshee, this almost feels like an auto win. I mean, obviously you still have to micro your units very well. At this point, yeah, the bunkers are coming. He smells that something's not quite right. Liberator here on the high ground is nice and all, but the Liberator is not nearly as good against this push as a Banshee would be. Now, I do really like this posturing here for Maru, trying to slow down this attack in whatever way possible. Engineering Bay completes the wall off at the front. We're gonna need to obviously break through this wall right here from the Terran player. Okay, well, NG Bay is not going to finish, but bunkers will. This is gonna be a heavy supply block right here for Maru. Yeah, so this is a super greedy game. I think this is the perfect opener here for Dark. Maru cutting a couple corners. Now the Zerg decides to commit. Corrosive Biles are going down wherever possible. Both of the bunkers are gone. Siege tank available right now, pre-splitting some of those Roaches and Ravagers to mitigate as much of that splash damage as possible. Okay, a lot more Zerglings on the back of this. So Dark is only at 41 workers. At this point, he's not done enough damage yet to justify this early game. There's the Siege tank as well as the Medevac going down. That's a misplay right there from Maru. Keep in mind that there are 3 command centers, so mules are incredibly powerful. Okay, Hellions pretending that they have a lot more firepower than they do. Stimpack, however, used right there on those Marines does make life a little bit better, but it's a ton of SCVs now falling as well on the back of this. 18 of them have gone down in total. Now the question is, was that enough damage? Was that enough for Dark to justify this early game? He's not done yet. Second siege tank, I was gonna say, that's a much nicer position over there. I was wondering why we decided to put it in an exposed location earlier. Okay, nah, he decides to drone on the back of this. So, Maru has got that 3rd command center, right? So, if he had an orbital command, or sorry, if he had a Banshee here, this orbital command would have put him in a significant advantage, because a Banshee would have just chipped away at all of those Roaches. He probably would have lost like maybe 10 SCVs, but that's about it. And then the mining that orbital command can give to the Terran, well, there they go. Yeah, those mules are incredibly handy, so Maru would have skyrocketed ahead at this point in the game. Instead, since he decided to go Viking into Liberator, even though we did have a tech lab available, I guess he really wanted to rush out Stimpack. I mean, that ultimately allowed him to hold there, but I think a Banshee opener would have been a bit safer. Either way, he's still in a pretty playable spot. Now, Dark's playing pretty greedy on the back of this, so he did make some units. But he's following it up with the classic Zerg timing attack, it looks like. So, +1 Carapace. Carapace. +1 Carapace, +1 Missile, and then the Roach speed upgrade too. Claraplace. Nice, Lowko. Very well done. Look, don't make fun of the non-native English speaker, okay? Even though I speak way more English these days than I speak Dutch. It's actually kind of funny. Sometimes, I'm now at the point, and I have been at this point for several years, but sometimes I cannot, for the life of me, come up with the Dutch word, but I can come up with the English version. This is a real problem. This hatchery is fake. I don't think Dark really I mean, he's making the base because he's got the minerals for it, but I don't think he really wants it. He's probably just gonna make non-stop units here and morph in a bunch of Ravagers. Maru, upon seeing this 4th hatchery, decides to fire up the +2/+2 research. Okay. I love this multi-layered attack though from Dark. I think it's very cool. So the Roach Ravager link flood early on into a +1/+1 Roach speed timing attack. Okay. 1 queen goes down. Sorry, Brenda, but you weren't very important. So you do want to hit the opponent in the face though, pretty much right about right now, right? So we have about 15 seconds until those upgrades are done. Ravagers indeed have finished morphing in here at the front. Is there enough for Maru to hold? Now Maru, like I said, incredibly good at turtling up and microing his units at home, but this is just simply a ton of Zerg. Siege tanks are positioned to protect the 3rd base, but it looks like we're actually going to come down from the high ground as well. Not a bad idea, actually, from Dark. I thought maybe he was going to push into the natural. The last siege tank does end up going down, although there's a new one that just popped out of the factory. Marines coming back home. Okay. That's an additional 21, 23 SCVs right now that have gone down. Maru is stemming forward, and he is cleaning up a lot of these expensive Zerg units. Well, at least expensive in this particular game. They're a lot more expensive than a Marine at the very least. Alright, +2 fires up. Now suddenly though, the 2-2 research here from Maru is gonna give him a very nice upgrade advantage. So yeah, he is essentially 2 full upgrades ahead. Not quite, but he is almost 2 full upgrades ahead of the opponent. Plus, well, he still has those mules. So whenever the mules are not mining, Zerg is ahead. Right now we've got 4 of those bad boys bringing in some juice. I think Maru is going to be able to catch up economically quite nicely. One downside here for Dark is that he doesn't actually have that many drones. Oh, that's a mistake. Alright, losing a bunch more Marines there than actually necessary. 4th hatchery right now actually does come in quite handy. I think he transferred, yeah, he transferred drones from both the main base as well as the natural expansion to watch this rich Vespian geyser. And apparently we're gonna rinse and repeat. This time around, it's gonna be a +2/+2 push. So we go from a Roach Ravager Ling Flood into a 1-1 Roach speed into a 2-2 Roach speed. I find this very ambitious here from Maru. Loses another medevac right there to Biles. Those are sloppy mistakes I don't think he should be making. He's very focused on microing those Marines, but I don't know if he's got the numbers. Maybe. Yeah, when the siege tanks join in, life is a lot better for him, but that's still a lot of Roaches. Nice Biles there. Dark's actually very good at biling units. I know it doesn't sound very difficult, but you have to point your mouse and actually know the exact range of your units. The Queen's now also joining in to try and get some transfusions done. Okay. Oh, clumping up those Liberators. That's another mistake. Those are sloppy errors. That's the kind of stuff that makes me wonder if Maru is still the #1 Terran in the world. You know, I've been a lot more impressed by Clem as of late, as I've said already in like 4 videos. Those are mistakes that you will not catch Mr. Clem making at the moment. Okay. So Dark does not want to give up on this base. He could decide to make this expansion and create like a backup plan. But he doesn't really seem to want to spend all of his money here on anything but units. So 2-2 is finishing right now for the Zerg player. Maru creating a chokehold here. Man, imagine if he had like 4 more medevacs here and 2 more Liberators. Like, it would actually be a game changer. It might still be okay for him though. Okay, I love this little hit squad of Ravagers coming in from the side. Getting rid of a bunch of those siege tanks. It's a very Ravager-heavy army. Dark trying his best to hold here. Once again, Biles connecting with Marines. A lot of Roaches and Ravagers have fallen though, but the numbers may just work barely in favor of the Zerg here. Medevac's completely out of energy. Genuinely, if those medevacs, I think we've seen at least like 3 medevacs getting biled in this game. I know it's very hard, but imagine 3 more medevacs with energy. A lot more of those Marines would have been saved. Okay. Nicely done right here by Dark, pushing forward once again. Dark trying his absolute best to prevent this game from going the distance. And this seems to be a bit of a theme lately. Just hyper-aggressive gameplay, not looking... I don't know if he's just not comfortable playing the late game, because every time I see him playing it, it's very impressive. He's got too much stuff here. Yep, he's starting to break through. Great split-offs right there on the Roaches and Ravagers, trying to maximize the damage. All of the Terran army is gone. Dark obtains the victory here in game number 1. And that will take us to Site Delta. Yeah, so what I was saying, I don't know if Dark is just not happy to play the late game, or if he's just trying to get the games over with quicker. The problem with, or the quote-unquote problem, with the style that Dark goes for, in a lot of those games, you can fall flat on your face, right? So just because Maru went for a Viking as his very first starport unit in the previous game, does not automatically mean that it's not going to be a Banshee, right? And Dark decides to flip a coin, and apparently, well, it landed correctly this time around. But imagine that previous game, where we saw a Viking first, it killed the Overlord, that triggered Dark to do his Link Flood, by the way, on the back of it. And then, instead of that, Maru decides to just flip it over and go for a Banshee or 2 anyways. That first wave of Roach, Ravager, Ling would have done far less damage. Terran would probably have ended up with at least like 10 more workers. And then all of those follow-up pushes from the Zerg are significantly weaker. So over time, you just run out of steam. Maybe Dark would have followed it up with like quick infestors or something like that, right? To try and play catch-up, which seems to be something he likes to do. But there's a little bit of rock, paper, scissors going on in some of that decision-making. What I'm saying is you won't really catch somebody like Cyril flipping a coin and hoping it lands on not Banshees. You know what I mean? Anyways, game number 2, we find ourselves on side Delta. It's obviously one of the reasons why Dark is such a scary competitor, because he does mix in strategies that theoretically, yeah, have a chance of just not working out in the slightest. Interesting start right here from Maru. So it's a depot into a single barracks. Completely scoutless, no Reaper. I think his first scout will probably be when a Hellion comes out. Which I'm not a huge fan of, but one thing he can do, I guess, is kill the Overlord. Yeah, sniping this first Overlord is actually very nice. There he is. Take him down, Jimmy. Even if you go up to the pillar, obviously, well, you can just fly the barracks and it'll be okay. So the factory does indeed come up inside of the main base. Double gas on the back of this here from Maru. Overlord, by the way, is gone. Okay. I still find this a little dangerous. Especially in this particular spawn location, since that add-on is so exposed. Because you're going up against Dark. Yeah. I was gonna say, Dark is a bit of a madman. Like, if I've analyzed that the man likes to play aggressively, I'm sure that Maru has figured out the same thing too, you know what I mean? Like, he definitely is well aware of what his competitors like to go for. So Dark looks at this style, he's like, yo bro, you're not scouting at all? You're gonna go and give me a reactor as part of the wall-off? You wanna survive? With what? 2 Marines in a bunker? Starport on the back of this. Barracks, secondary barracks on the back of this. So this is Maru, again, cutting a corner, trying to rush out Stimpeg. Stimpeg will finish up at about the 5-minute mark, so it would be perfect against that particular Roach push that we just saw in the previous game. However, Dark's not going for a Roach push. We're going for a Bingling bust. And I think it's actually very, very clever. I don't see what Maru's gonna do against this. He's not even going double Hellion production. He's cutting one too many corners, man. I don't like it. Yep, I think Dark has successfully figured out, yo, Maru is playing too greedy of an early game as of late. The depot's not even lifted. Oh, no. Well, apparently Dark doesn't care. He just blows up the wall anyways. There's obviously no secondary wall off. GG is called, and Dark obtains a very quick 2-0 victory over Maru. Yeah, I think Dark, he must have recognized that Maru is just playing a bit too greedy as of late. The standard Terran build orders, right? The most quote-unquote normal strategies that Terrans can go for, they're safe against both of the builds that Dark ended up going for in this series. You would be able to hold a Roach push relatively easily, even with triple command center, and obviously you can definitely hold a Bailing bust as well. Maru's cutting one too many corners, and Dark punishes him for it. GG.